She stood at the edge of the barn doorway, shaking so hard the lantern light danced across the wooden walls. Her fingers were clenched around a dirty, damp cloth, pressed to her chest like a shield. "I'm not clean anymore," she cried, her voice cracking in a way that sliced straight through the silence of the night. The rancher stopped dead in his tracks. He had heard screams before, of animals caught in wire, of men broken by drink, but nothing like this. When he reached for the cloth, his hand hesitated in midair, because something in her eyes told him that once he saw what was hidden beneath, nothing would ever be the same. Stay with this story until the very end, because what he uncovered didn't just reveal her secret. It rewrote both of their lives forever. If stories that hit the heart and keep you hooked matter to you, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. Your support keeps these powerful stories alive. The rancher's name was Mateo Alvarez, and the land beneath his boots had been his whole life. 40 years of dust, sweat, and sun had carved lines into his face deeper than any map. He knew this ranch the way a man knows his own scars. Every fence post, every creak of the barn, every shadow that moved when it shouldn't. That night the air felt wrong. Too still, too heavy. Mateo had been locking up when he noticed her standing there, half hidden by darkness, as if she might vanish if he blinked. Her name was Alina. She had come to the ranch months earlier asking for work, her eyes tired but determined, carrying a past she never spoke about. She worked harder than anyone, never complained, never stayed late after sunset. Until tonight. "Elena," Mateo said quietly, lowering his voice the way you do with someone who's already on the edge. She flinched at the sound, stepping back, her boots scraping against the dirt. Moonlight revealed dark stains soaking through the cloth she held, and Mateo's first thought was blood. His chest tightened. "You're hurt," he said, instinctively moving closer. "Don't," she whispered sharply. One word, enough to stop him cold. Her hands were trembling so badly the cloth shook, and tears streaked down her face unchecked. "Please, don't come closer." Mateo raised his hands slowly, palms open. "All right," he said. "I'm right here. Just tell me what happened." She shook her head again and again, as if trying to shake loose the words stuck in her throat. "I tried to wash it," she sobbed. "I scrubbed and scrubbed. I thought if I could just clean it enough, maybe it would go away." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "But it won't. It never does." Confusion and dread tangled in Mateo's gut. This wasn't an injury. This was shame, the kind that eats people alive. "Elena," he said gently, "nothing that happens to you makes you dirty." She let out a bitter, broken laugh. "You don't know that," she said. "You haven't seen it." The word it hung between them, heavy and dangerous. She looked at the cloth like it was a curse, then back at Mateo, searching his face for judgment she was already sure she'd find. "If you see it," she whispered, "you'll understand why I can't stay here anymore." Mateo's heart pounded. Every instinct told him to be careful, but another voice, older, stronger, told him this was a moment that would define who he was. He took a slow step forward. She didn't pull away this time, but her breathing became shallow, panicked. "You're safe here," he said firmly. "Nothing you show me will change that." Her knees buckled, and she sank to the ground, sobbing openly now. The cloth slipped slightly in her grip, revealing more stained fabric beneath. Mateo crouched down a few feet away, the cold dirt seeping through his jeans. He waited. He didn't rush. He didn't touch. Finally, after what felt like forever, Elena nodded once, small, defeated. Permission, Mateo reached for the cloth. As his fingers closed around the edge, a strange chill ran through him, the kind that comes right before bad memories wake up. He didn't know yet why his hand was shaking. He didn't know yet why his skin prickled with fear. He only knew that the moment he pulled that cloth away, the truth would come out, and neither of them would ever be able to pretend again. Mateo pulled the cloth back slowly, as if time itself had thickened around his fingers. The night seemed to close in, the insects falling silent, the wind holding its breath. What lay beneath was not an open wound, not fresh blood as he had feared, but something far worse. A dark, burned mark scarred Elena's skin, deliberate and cruel, etched deep enough that no amount of washing could ever erase it. Matteo felt the strength drain from his legs. His face went pale, his jaw tightening as recognition struck like a blow. It was a brand, old, intentional. A symbol he had seen once before in his life and prayed never to see again. Elena watched his reaction. Every flicker of horror reflected back at her, and her shoulders sagged as if the last thread holding her upright had snapped. "No, you know," she said quietly, her voice hollow. "That's why I'm not clean anymore." Matteo swallowed hard, his throat dry. He forced himself to keep his voice steady, even as memories clawed their way to the surface. Sirens in the distance, a girl crying in the back of a truck, men who smiled like predators and vanished before justice could touch them. He had crossed paths with that symbol years ago, while helping a neighbor's daughter escape something unspeakable. He remembered the fear in her eyes, the way shame had been sewn into her skin long before the brand ever was. Matteo had thought that chapter of his life was closed, buried under years of quiet ranch work and isolation. Seeing it now on Elena felt like the past reaching up from the grave. Elena pulled the cloth back toward herself, curling inward, trying to make herself smaller. "They said it meant I belonged to them," she whispered. "That even if I ran, even if I hid, people would see it and know what I was." Her fingers traced the edge of the scar as if touching a ghost. "I tried to scrub it off tonight because I thought maybe if it looked clean I could pretend." Her voice broke. "But I can't pretend anymore." Matteo shook his head slowly. "No," he said, the word firm, grounding. "That's not what it means." Elena looked up at him, disbelief flickering through her tears. "You went pale," she said. "You recognized it. Don't lie to me." Matteo met her gaze, refusing to look away. "I recognized what was done to you," he replied. "Not who you are." He took a careful breath. "That mark doesn't make you dirty. It proves you survived something meant to destroy you." The words seemed to confuse her more than comfort her. "Years of fear don't disappear with a sentence. Everyone else would see it differently," she said. "They'd see a warning." Matteo's hands clenched into fists at his sides, anger rising, not at her, never at her, but at the people who had carved lies into her body and soul. "Then everyone else would be wrong," he said. He shifted closer, still careful, still giving her space. "I've seen what those people do. I've seen what they say to keep control. Shame is their favorite weapon." Elena's breathing slowed slightly as she listened, the panic giving way to exhaustion. "I ran in the middle of the night," she said. "No money. No plan. I thought if I could get far enough, I could disappear." She gave a weak, bitter smile. "But you can't outrun something that's burned into you." Matteo felt a heaviness in his chest. "You didn't disappear," he said softly. "You came here. You worked. You helped. You lived." He gestured toward the ranch, the land stretching wide and open behind him. "This place doesn't care about brands. It cares about whether you show up." And you did. Tears streamed down Elena's face again, but these were different, less frantic, more uncertain. "Aren't you afraid?" she asked. "Of what might come looking for me?" Matteo didn't hesitate. "Yes," he said honestly. "But fear doesn't get to decide what's right." He stood slowly, offering her his hand, not demanding she take it. "You're not alone tonight, or any night after this." After a long moment, Elena placed her trembling hand in his. Matteo helped her to her feet, steady and patient. The brand was still there. The past was still real. But for the first time since she had arrived at the ranch, Elena felt something shift. Not the scar, but the story she had been telling herself about it. She didn't know yet that danger would follow recognition, that seeing the brand meant someone else might come looking. All she knew was that the man standing in front of her hadn't turned away. And sometimes that was enough to begin again. From that night on, the ranch no longer slept the way it used to. Matteo became alert to every sound, the crunch of tires on gravel, the distant bark of dogs, the way shadows stretched too long at dusk. He didn't tell Elena everything he was doing, but she noticed the changes. New locks appeared on the barn doors. Floodlights flickered on along the fence line. Matteo started carrying his phone everywhere, checking the road more often than necessary. Elena understood without asking. The past had a way of following, and now that it had been seen, It felt closer than ever. Elena tried to make herself smaller again, the way she used to before coming to the ranch. She kept her head down, avoided town, and offered more work than anyone could reasonably expect. One evening, she finally said it out loud. "I should leave," she told Mateo, standing on the porch as the sun bled into the horizon. "If I'm not here, they won't have a reason to come." Mateo didn't raise his voice. He didn't argue. He simply shook his head. "Running didn't stop them before," he said. "It won't now. And I won't let fear decide who belongs here." Despite the tension, something fragile and hopeful began to grow. Elena started sleeping through the night, no longer waking up gasping from the same old dreams. She laughed sometimes, soft, surprised laughter as if it caught her off guard. She worked with the horses again, her touch gentle, confident. Mateo watched her heal in pieces, knowing healing was never clean or simple. Some mornings she still scrubbed her skin too hard, staring at the brand like it might suddenly disappear. On those days, Mateo learned to sit nearby without speaking, reminding her simply by being there that she was not alone. Weeks passed, then months. The ranch settled into a new rhythm, one shaped by quiet vigilance and stubborn hope. Just when Elena started to believe that the past might finally loosen its grip, a black SUV appeared on the road one afternoon. It slowed as it passed the ranch gate. Too slow. Elena saw it from the far end of the field and froze, the blood draining from her face. Her hands began to shake, and for a moment, she was no longer on the ranch. She was running again, heart pounding, breath stolen by fear. That night, Mateo gathered everyone in the main house. The ranch hands listened in stunned silence as he told them the truth. Not every detail, but enough. He didn't use Elena's name. He didn't need to. "What matters," he said, his voice steady, "is that someone here needs protection, and anyone who has a problem with that can leave now." No one moved. Not one. Elena stood in the hallway, tears slipping down her face, overwhelmed by something she hadn't felt in years, belonging. The SUV came back 2 days later. This time it stopped. 2 men stepped out, their eyes cold, their smiles practiced. Mateo walked out to meet them before they reached the house. He felt the old anger rise, sharp and dangerous, but he kept his voice calm. "You're on private land," he said. "Turn around." One of the men glanced past him toward the house. "We're looking for someone," he said lightly. "She owes us." Mateo stepped forward, blocking the view. "No one here owes you anything." The air grew thick with tension. Elena watched from the window, heart hammering, convinced this was the moment everything collapsed. But Mateo didn't back down. He had already called the sheriff. He had already gathered evidence. He had already decided that silence was no longer an option. When the men realized they were being watched, that they were outnumbered and no longer hidden, their confidence cracked. They left with threats muttered under their breath, but they left. As the dust settled, Elena slid down the wall, shaking with relief and terror all at once. Mateo found her there, sitting beside her on the floor. "It's not over," she said. Mateo nodded. No, he agreed. But it's different now. For the first time, Elena believed him. The brand was still on her skin, but it no longer felt like a chain. It felt like proof. Proof that she had endured, that she had been seen, and that this time she would not be facing the darkness alone. Months later, Elena stood in the open fields, sunlight warm on her skin. The brand was still there, but it no longer owned her. Mateo watched her smile, knowing some scars don't vanish, they transform. Healing wasn't erasing the past, it was reclaiming the future. If this story moved you, like the video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories.